floaties and you want to lop off your dick.
Yeah, no. That's.
I mean, the parents. I'm not talking to the 5-year-old kids because you can't even use these words. Question of the day: where's the line between being a child performer and being the victim of child abuse? Let me explain the context here before we get to this Vice video we're going to rebuttal. I want to be very clear because our not recent, 3-year-old video on Stephanie, the 56-year-old trans 5-year-old, was removed from YouTube for apparently making
They're
people
on top
feel
of things,
unsafe.
aren't they?
Apparently the entire 56-year-old trans 5-year-old community was stunned that we were not supporters of them.
Wow.
I think transitioning children is child abuse, right? You let me know what you think. Change my mind. You're more than maybe we could do it. Change my mind, but I would probably be acid milkshake. Of course, activists right now, the transgender activists, and what you see at Vice, they claim that the right hates science. This is something we hear a lot. I cannot fathom that argument when you see these kinds of videos at Vice, when you see the kind of anti-scientific rhetoric really that's being substituted with an agenda. So here you go. Vice had this documentary to look at how parents should know when to have their children transition to the opposite gender.
As families try to support their children and lessen the potential for self-harm, they're now forced to weigh the options of early medical intervention. Now kids like 8-year-old Max O'Brien can delay the onset of puberty using drugs called hormone blockers. Max goes to Boston Children's Hospital, which opened the first clinic for transgender youth in the U.S. Since 2007,
I wouldn't let that woman around my kid because of her haircut.
In
the past couple of years, our volume has just about doubled.
Well, I saw a white lab coat in there. Color me convinced. You know what's also, by the way, before we get to the substance, I don't know, this is ad hominem. Do you find it weird that they say a drug known as hormone blockers? Like, that is a colloquialism. But that's like a drug known as clomiphene citrate. It's like a drug known as a painkiller. A drug that is a chemical which does something medically. Why would they say it's a hormone blocker? You don't need to say a drug known as hormone blockers.
No, you just see it's a hormone blocker.
So this is what Vice does. They have these interviews with these experts, right? People in white lab coats. What they don't tell you is that these trans activist doctors actively perpetuate anti-scientific myths about transgenderism and then completely ignore huge amounts of evidence that contradict their dogma. And something else, they're talking about young children.
Yeah.
Here's something I want to genuinely know, because weighing their options because of how their children feel. Some of these kids are 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
We don't allow 8-year-olds to make decisions about anything, specifically sex, right? You don't allow an 8-year-old cannot consent to sex. You don't allow them to make any sexual decisions, yet you are allowing them to make decisions that will permanently alter their sexual functioning and their social sex life for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
In what other scenario can you imagine us do? This is the only scenario where we allow 8-year-olds to make permanent, life-altering sexual decisions.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know in this video, they spend about the first 5 to 8 minutes telling you family stories, really trying to soften you up to situations. And they start off with a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
They start off with somebody who was maybe looking at transitioning at 3 and 4 years old. Like, and this entire thing is meant to think that this is such a hard life that we have to do this. So they're trying to set you up for an emotional pull,
transitioning
not science.
5 years old, you can't even swim without floaties, and you want to lop off your dick.
Yeah, no, that's.
I mean, the parents. I'm not talking to the 5-year-old kids because you can't even use these words. No. How can you even describe
the naughty words
the procedure you
can't use
when you can't even use them without putting a nickel in a swear jar? Okay, next clip.
Another one is really kind of the psychosocial development. Our brains are supposed to be, exposed to estrogen and testosterone. Okay. You know, if you're not getting your sex steroids, do you still go through that? And how important is that in gender identification? We don't know.
No, actually, we do know. Okay, so they're talking about giving hormone blockers to kids.
Right.
Giving them hormone blockers seems to lock them into a permanent condition of gender dysphoria. Yeah. This is something people don't talk about, and it's important. We'll come back to it. If the kids don't transition early on, about 75 to 90% of the kids completely grow out of it. But if you look at those who undergo the puberty blockers, drugs, commonly known as hormone blockers, but what are they uncommonly known as? You wouldn't be able to pronounce it. Well, just say hormone blockers. If you look at the kids who undergo hormone blockers, the number drops from 75 to 90% who grow out of it to zero. Grace!
Oh, wow.
Okay?
That's incredible.
So let's get to some of the other myths that you see in this video. They try to also tell you that puberty blockers, hormone blockers are reversible.
If Max changes his mind at any point, we can release the blockade, and we know from lots of papers of experience that he will go into puberty on his own, a female puberty.
To me, blockers is, again, it's not a permanent thing. It just puts a pause for a while.
No, it is much more severe than putting a pause.
Yeah.
By the way,
wrong.
isn't it nice that you could just say, it just puts a pause. A pause to what? a positive fusing of growth plates and proper hormonal development as long as facial structure, ligaments, overall connective tissue. He really could be walking around like he has rickets. We don't know. Hormone blockers can permanently affect height. Okay, girls can have a male growth spurt. Guys can end up with a female stature. Okay?
Yeah.
These are not things that you can correct. Do you remember, by the way, when we're talking about this, do you remember as a kid when they used to tell you, don't drink coffee, it might stunt your growth? Yes. They used to say, no lifting weights. And we're like, don't lift weights too young. Yeah. Don't drink coffee. And like, I might shave off an 1.5 inches. But now we're talking about pumping their bodies full of estrogen or foreign hormones. But it is remarkable to me that they just say, they act as though, this is just very mild. We can just put you on hormone altering puberty blockers. And if you don't like it, you could go back. Well, no, hold on a second. First, do no harm, right? You've heard of that with doctors. How about we don't put them on hormone blockers and see if they figure it out, especially when 75 to 90% of them don't end up having gender dysmorphia for the rest of their life anyway. Yeah. And by the way, while we're talking about hormone blockers, it's important to note that even having naturally low levels of a lot of these hormones can damage the human body. Yeah, right? So low testosterone in men linked to diabetes, heart problems, obesity, other hormones, particularly in women, estrogen, they help contribute to mental well-being. Low levels strongly correlated with increased suicide attempts. This is something to think about. We already have a certain demographic here, transgenders with an insanely high suicide rate. Yeah. Do we really want to start to severely alter hormones which directly correlate to one's mental state at a younger age? By the way, hit the notification bell when we're talking about mental state because subscriptions don't mean a whole lot anymore. Join up at Mug Club, ladowscrowder.com/Mug Club unless you just want Vice to win, and subscribe on iTunes. Okay, another thing they tell you, the kids won't be able to be themselves if you don't let them trans. Someone think of the children, transgender children.
We're trying to do is provide the treatment, the care, for young people who, in the absence
is she Asian
of
or just very
that
scowly?
care,
I can't tell.
have a very high likelihood of taking their lives. So my sense is cross-sex hormones, pubertal blockers are absolutely medically necessary.
That's your feeling, only it's wrong. It is not true.
How does that pass as a medical opinion?
Well, here's the thing they don't talk about. People with gender dysphoria who undergo surgery, they're still 19 times more likely to commit suicide than the general population. You cannot find that kind of a demographic anywhere outside of, from what I understand, paranoid schizophrenics. You don't even find it in the demographics of American slaves or Holocaust survivors.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
But
insane.
we're supposed to believe because they couldn't take a dump at the preferred bathroom at a Denny's. That's why you find them hanging from a noose in the basement. Yeah. Listen, it's not that people have no compassion, right? We're just talking about the science, and we're looking at the actual solutions to the problem, which, just in the opinion of most people here, is not pumping a 5-year-old full of drugs known as hormone blockers.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing is transitioning. They want to make you think it's the only option.
People talk about us being such brave and courageous parents and stuff. I didn't see any other option.
The Vice interviewer said that, right?
Like, to me, I don't think he would have made it. I mean, the stuff that he's said and felt. And so I want a live kid. I want my kid. I don't care. I'll take him as a boy. It doesn't matter to me.
I don't know. People just say I'm a brave, courageous parent. I don't consider myself a hero. Just because I gave my kid some anastrozole or caffeine citrate. I don't know. I don't think I deserve a medal pinned on this jacket. I do have a few here that I got from the Vice interviewer with the angry lesbian haircut.
Jeez.
None of this is true. We feel like we would have lost her. They're talking about a 5-year-old. How many 5-year-olds are committing suicide?
5-year-olds don't talk like this. They don't.
No. They don't. In the video, the 5-year-old goes, "I am happier now. I'm more fulfilled because I am comfortable in my own skin." Like, what are you, Wendy Williams? They're still going to be 19 times more likely to commit suicide than the general population.
That's what I mean.
If they go through with the transition, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you get them therapy, even without therapy, but specifically with therapy, the numbers get better. 75 to 90% of those kids will grow out of it. Right? Yeah. So any way you look at it, 75 to 90% will grow out of that 19 times the general population suicide rate. Yeah. So if you want to be a good parent, you say, I think my 6-year-old was looking up old Derby single safety razor blades. And I said, why are you adding that to Amazon cart? What 5-6-year-old is killing themselves?
Right.
Yeah.
That's an actual brand of
Okay, I was about to
double-edged
say, I don't know
safety
what you're
razor,
talking about
by
there.
the way. That's what Michael Keaton was using in Pacific Heights.
But I would say, if you, as a parent, if you put those two stats next to each other, you can have 19 times the suicide rate, or 75 to 90% chance that things are going to get better.
Right, regardless
It's
of
easy to
whether you
pick.
DVR RuPaul's Drag
So
Race or
hard.
not.
Yeah, this isn't a hard question.
This is the only option. It's like overweight people who go straight to getting lap band. It's like, well, hold on a second. Did you exercise? Did you diet? Did you go to the nutrition? Stomach staple. No, how about you just revoke your Trader Joe's snack aisle card? I don't know if they sell cards specifically for straight, but they are not as healthy as you would think they are.
Definitely not as healthy, but it does seem to be the wrong way out of the solution.
Also, completely unrelated, but 40% of those patients are overweight again in 5 years. Which, again, would correlate to this idea of the quick out that these kids are not going to have. They're not going to be plagued by mental disorders for the rest. If you don't solve the mental issues here, okay, you don't solve the likelihood of a suicide rate. That's the truth. If you're talking about helping these children, putting them into anyway, let's go on to the next. There is no next clip.
This is it.
There's too much. It's a 28-minute video. I wish there were more there. We went to the transgender town hall that one time. Remember in Vermont, and it was banned from YouTube with Dr. Rex Butt. Remember that? They were
an unfortunate name.
They were coaching us on how to put our kids through hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
It's really scary when you have doctors, you have entire medical practices who they're practicing this on gender theory, not science.
Right.
And a lot of the reason for this, that you're seeing this, there's a bigger reason at play here. The left wants to criminalize everyone who doesn't recognize this. Doctors, pastors, coaches. You look at some of the bills that have been proposed, right? If you don't use we already see it in Canada. If you don't use the proper pronouns, not only proper pronouns, I should say, if you don't use the pronouns that someone determines on a day-to-day basis and it changes on any given day, they want that to be criminalized. It's even scarier when you think that these people they also believe that healthcare is a human right.
Yeah.
So it just shows you there's no limit to what they'll demand.
And
it's
this
not
all
about
falls under
catastrophic
healthcare.
care.
Yeah.
It's not about basic care. It's not even about birth control. It's not even about providing 16 out of the 21 birth controls that you see with Hobby Lobby, so they show up and they protest and they have Sandra Fluke. Yeah. It's about all the way up to drugs known as hormone blockers for 7-year-old kids. Yeah. Right. And they believe this should be subsidized by the taxpayers, who, by the way, can have no say in helping children transition to the opposite gender.
That's incredible.
And one thing I hear a lot of people say, like, this isn't really a big deal. You know, the free speech stuff, the kids on campus, the gender stuff, the culture war stuff. Let's just talk about, it's the economy, stupid. But we are literally talking about completely eliminating the entire concept of gender, by extension, the family, the nuclear family, the central building block for all of Western civilization's way of life. This is probably the most important issue that we're facing today. Saying that men and women are of no intrinsic value, are not unique, and are fundamentally interchangeable from as early as 5 years old. It will make us worse husbands. It will make us worse fathers. It will make us worse mothers. It will make us worse parents overall, and it'll make us a weaker people. By the way, this is all done predicated on the idea that doing this is compassionate. Well, you know what? You are putting these people into an estrogen-injected shallow grave. And I hope you feel good about it. I hope your white guilt is worth it. Hey there, if you like this video, this is the part where I would usually tell you to subscribe, but I can't do it anymore. I'm going to tell you to subscribe, and then YouTube is going to decide that we can't reach you even though you subscribe to this channel, and then I'll say hit the notification bell, and then the notification bell won't even be there anymore. I don't know what to say. More than likely you'll find my face in a milk carton. But do what you can to stop it. It probably won't do much.